You're absolutely right, Zinzi, and we'll get straight into it. Before we get into the bulls and bears session where we talk about investment and fraud, let's go through the newspapers. And I want to take you through the front page of the Daily Nation. Why Rotich is walking a tightrope. That's their splash there. Cabinet Secretary questioned into the night of a suspected graft in 63 billion shilling Aurora and Kimwarer Dam projects back at DCI today. He's expected there. Treasury CS squeezed on payouts, and Chelugui is apparently up next. Uru keep tribe out of graft war. President Kenyatta yesterday told off leaders who have politicized the tribe and tribalized his government's anti-corruption efforts, saying the war against corruption, which has been revived after several abortive starts, will not be compromised by the greedy and corrupt politicians fighting to preserve their ways. And then still on the front page is hope after HIV positive man is now cured.
Phenomenal story there.
Yep, that's what.
Although you've seen cured in quotes.
Yes.
Media houses are saying may have been cured. I don't know why that emphasis.
We'll delve into it.
We'll delve into
how it happens. Church rushes to defense of David Owuor as a prophet, self-declared prophet, is caught up in a 1.5 billion shilling property battle with the family of brainwashed adherent. That's the front page of the Daily Nation. Should we take a look at the Standard as well?
Front page of the Standard, a related story. Rotich's 12-hour ordeal with graft detectives, and of course the career of President Uhuru Kenyatta's first-term finance CS under scrutiny after he spent the day with investigators answering questions on the 63 billion dam projects, and he's expected back before the DCI today. The story also of the Briton who's free of HIV after treatment, also touched on briefly on the front page of the Standard. And at the very top there, a picture of President Uhuru Kenyatta at the Devolution Conference there, saying, and of course the big quote, "If you think I'm corrupt, report me to the DCI," as the president reiterates the war on corruption is unstoppable and dares anyone with evidence against him to report him to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations. One of our guests really smiled as I read one of those quotes there. I don't know which quote it is. I won't tell you which guest, but let me now introduce them, starting from there, right there. Tony Watima, an economist, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And of course, we have Carolle Maina, an advocate of the High Court. Welcome to the program as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You've heard those headlines that we've taken you through briefly. Obviously, the big story is Rotich, and I want to link this with a discussion that was held here yesterday. Kipchumba Murkomen and John Badi were in studio. The question, first of all, of advance payments, threshold of guilt in terms of proving conspiracy to defraud and abuse of office as well. So let me get both your takes. And Carol, I could start with you and just get your general thoughts on the war on corruption and whether Kenyans fully understand some of these terms that are being bandied around by different politicians.
There's a phrase you've mentioned, conspiracy to defraud. When we talk about conspiracy, you have in mind, first of all, what is fraud? Right? You have to first of all define the basic crime of fraud, and fraud is defined in the penal code, right? So fraud could be theft by servant, general theft, abuse of office by public servants, and also what we are now calling economic theft. So in this case where we have, and remember, everybody's innocent until proven guilty. So when we're talking about these contracts, one would need to advise themselves or inform themselves, what do the contracts provide for? Were there advance payments provided for? And if advance payments were provided for, what were those advance funds meant to do? Because what's been banded around is the advance payments. Fine. Advance payments are not prohibited in law. However, what were the advance payments for? Right? And if it is found that these advance payments were then misappropriated, then there is a crime.
But also at the same time, Carol, before we go to Tony, when such charges as abuse of office are brought up before a jury, do they hold water? Because most of the time people get off on a technicality. How do you prove that I abused my office?
Okay.
When you use terms like abuse of office, conspiracy to defraud, economic crimes, things like that.
When you say a technicality, what you're implying is when the charge sheet, the charge sheet that has the criminal offense, how has it been presented? Because if the charge sheet is incompetent, if it shall not hold, then there will be a technicality. Therein lies a technicality. But in direct response to your question, if it is proven, remember, by the time it is going to court, where has the process begun? Possibly the FRC, Financial Reporting Center, has been advised that there was a crime. The FRC has then invited various bodies of government. In this case, we find it was the DPP, right? I beg your pardon, the DCI. The DCI has then carried out, I would like to believe, extensive investigation, right? And they're still carrying out investigation because you see they're appearing before the CID. So they're still doing their evidence collection, subsequent to which, when the evidence is watertight, you can then bring a case. And I like the way, without sounding partisan, I like the way the DCI is going about collecting of evidence, right? From what we can see in the public domain is, in this case, there are no, dare I say, sacred cows, because everybody's being called to account. So that's why we're having different stories. Everybody seems to be cooking up their own defense. Why would we have 3 different accounts of how much money was spent? So obviously, dare I say, they've not yet had time to collude their stories, because they would not then have different accounts of how much money has been expended towards this project.
Tony, your take?
My take is that my understanding was that we need to, in these commercial contracts, we talk about advance payment. It's not something new. It's something that is done, but it has to be watertight. How many people go around it is that you establish a joint venture, and so there is part of government or side of government that plays a part in holding accountable the other partner. So what seems to have happened is that probably there was collusion within the joint venture, and that's how we ended up in this problem. But the issue is that these economic crimes are complex, and we seem that we are playing catch-up. So those who are perpetrators are ahead of us. So if you're trying to tame down, we need to find a way on how do you step up before these crimes are committed, because it becomes difficult to trace again and paper trail all these kind of things. And so the best way is that we need to find ways on how to play catch-up in these economic crimes and trying to stem them.
What are some of the things you wish you saw that would sort of give you a sense that things are on the right track in terms of even just understanding everything that's progressing right now?
One of the main things is that I saw in the first, when the story was breaking in the first days, we saw that contracts were the number of people who supplied in this were around 100 companies. Over
100 companies, that's correct.
So it makes it difficult for anyone to narrow down an investigation from 100 companies on a probability scale. We need to look at how do you stem, where was the money misappropriated or embezzled, or where there was abuse of office specifically, because I might be a third party who is supplying within those companies, and I'm not connected in anything because I'm an ordinary person trying to transact my business.
But you're now implicated in one way or the other.
Yes. So we need to find a way, and how do you narrow on a probability? These are the main guys that I'm looking for, and then it makes everyone's jobs easier.
And what is the economic impact of such headlines, globally speaking? Because there has to be a domino effect. Even if this goes out.
Even if nothing happens.
Just based on perception, what is the economic impact?
It means that we are a country that's still trying to understand accountability. We are trying to learn accountability in terms of public service, in terms of managing resources and public resources. So if you're an investor, you will be careful on what exactly, if you're coming into Kenya, what exactly are you dealing with when you're coming to Kenya?
Carolle doesn't agree. I see you shaking your head.
You see, the use of the word learn, I think, is being polite. I don't think we're learning to manage public resources. I think we are facing a challenge in the integrity of the persons managing these resources. The laws are there, the laws are robust, but the integrity of the persons faced or charged with doing so is wanting is an understatement.
Beyond wanting. Let me get a thought from you regarding this. Senate Majority Leader Kipchumba Murkomen, you've just given the DCI thumbs up.
Right.
You know, no sacred cows. You like the work that they're doing.
Right.
He feels that the DCI is prosecuting cases on social media and in traditional media as well. Too much publicity while investigations are going on. As an advocate of the High Court, should that be a concern? Is that how things should be? One group say that's how things should be. This thing of doing investigations in the dark, those are days gone by. But others are saying, listen, we're not very comfortable with the fact that every step in the investigation makes it to the front page of a paper the next day or is on social media before the end of the day. What are your thoughts on that?
Okay, when you're collecting evidence, I believe it's the anti-corruption and what's that act? The anti-corruption, the money anti-laundering, anti-money laundering, and economic crimes act. It does talk about how you'd go about collecting evidence. It does not negate from putting the public domain. So I think the beauty of what the DCI is doing is there's a phrase we use in law, buyer beware, persons beware. If you're going to be associated with this person, if you're going to be asked to supply it, to be a supplier in a contract for which, in this instance, I've seen that there were luxury towels supplied. Now, why would you need luxury towels? You need to question yourself, right? What are we exactly? Exactly. You need to question yourself. So there's no law prohibiting the DCI saying this is how we're going. And for my learned colleague Markham to say the social media and all, without sounding partisan, I believe there is a certain there are certain issues that maybe for political reasons or other reasons don't want to be brought to the fore. So when you attack also in the media, if you're having a problem saying that you're using the media, so why come to the media and say, where are you using the media? Come on, doesn't make any sense. Are you not doing the same thing? Absolutely.
Okay.
All right, we're about to take a short break here on Daybreak. When we come back, we get into the bulls and bears conversation.